Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Storm, Mystique and Scarlet Witch? If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Naruto Uzumaki stood at the edge of Konoha, gazing out over the familiar landscape. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the village, and the wind ruffled his blonde hair. He had just returned from another mission, a routine one, nothing too dangerous, but something felt off. There was a tension in the air, a sense of unease that he couldn't shake. He tightened his grip on the scroll in his hand, a delivery from the Hokage to one of the border outposts. It should have been a simple task, but ever since he'd crossed the village gates, that strange feeling had grown stronger. Maybe I'm just tired, Naruto muttered to himself, rubbing the back of his neck. Or maybe it's just the ramen talking. He tried to laugh it off, but the unease remained, gnawing at the edges of his mind. As he made his way through the village, heading toward Ichiraku Ramen for a quick meal, the air around him suddenly shifted. The world seemed to slow, the colors around him dulling as if someone had drained the life out of them. Naruto stopped in his tracks, his senses flaring. But before he could react, the ground beneath his feet began to tremble. A low, ominous hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. The scroll slipped from his fingers as he instinctively reached for a kunai. But it was too late. The ground split open beneath him, and a blinding light erupted from the fissure. Naruto's eyes widened in shock as the light engulfed him, pulling him into its depths. He tried to resist, to anchor himself to the world he knew, but the force was too strong. The last thing he saw before everything went dark was the sight of Konoha disappearing into the distance. Naruto woke with a start, gasping for breath. The first thing he noticed was the cold and unnatural, biting cold that seeped into his bones. He groaned, sitting up slowly and blinking against a harsh light overhead. "Where am I?" he muttered, glancing around. The landscape was nothing like the forests of Konoha. Instead, he found himself in a vast, desolate wasteland. The sky was overcast, with dark clouds swirling ominously above, and the ground beneath him was rocky and barren. Naruto pushed himself to his feet, shaking off the lingering disorientation. The wind howled around him, carrying with it a strange energy that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. "This isn't good," he muttered, reaching up to adjust his headband. He had no idea where he was or how he had gotten here, but one thing was clear. He wasn't in the elemental nations anymore. As he scanned the horizon, looking for any sign of life, he felt a familiar presence stirring within him. "Hashirama," Naruto called out mentally, "you there?" The nine-tails fox grumbled in response, his deep voice resonating in Naruto's mind. "I'm here, brat. And I don't like this place. There's something off about it." Naruto frowned. If even Kurama was uneasy, then this situation was worse than he thought. "Any idea where we are?" "No," Kurama replied, his tone uncharacteristically serious. "But I can sense powerful energies nearby. Some are similar to chakra, but different." Naruto's frown deepened. "Different? That didn't sound good." "Alright," he said aloud, "I guess we'd better start looking for answers." He began to walk, moving cautiously through the wasteland. The wind continued to howl, carrying with it a strange, almost metallic scent that made his nose twitch. The terrain was rough, with jagged rocks jutting out from the ground like the teeth of some ancient beast. After what felt like hours of walking, Naruto finally spotted something on the horizon, a faint flickering light. His heart skipped a beat. It wasn't much, but it was a sign of life, and that was more than he had found so far. He quickened his pace, the light growing brighter as he approached. As he drew closer, he realized it was coming from a small campfire, surrounded by several figures. Naruto slowed, squinting to make out who or what they were. "Looks like people," he muttered to himself, feeling a glimmer of hope. But as he approached the camp, he noticed something odd about the figures. They were humanoid, yes, but their features were sharp and angular, almost alien. Their skin had an unusual sheen, reflecting the firelight in strange ways. Naruto hesitated, his instincts telling him to be cautious. But before he could decide what to do, one of the figures turned and spotted him. The being's eyes glowed with an eerie blue light, and it let out a low, guttural sound. The other figures quickly turned, their attention now fully focused on Naruto. For a moment, there was silence as they stared at each other, the tension in the air thick enough to cut with a kunai. Then, one of the beings stepped forward, raising a hand. Naruto tensed, ready to defend himself, but to his surprise, the figure spoke not in a language he recognized, but in a series of clicks and whistles. Naruto blinked, his confusion deepening. "I don't understand you," he said, lowering his kunai slightly. The figure paused, then seemed to consider something. After a moment, it raised its hand again, and this time, a small glowing orb appeared in its palm. The light from the orb pulsed rhythmically, and as Naruto watched, he felt a strange sensation wash over him, a sense of connection. "What is this?" he wondered aloud, his guard slipping slightly as the orb's light continued to pulse. Slowly, the figure approached, holding the orb out to him. Naruto hesitated, then, driven by a mixture of curiosity and desperation, he reached out and touched the orb. The moment his fingers made contact, the world around him shifted. In an instant, the wasteland was replaced by a vibrant forest, the air filled with the sounds of life. Naruto gasped, looking around in shock. It was as if he had been transported back to Konoha, but different. The trees were taller, their leaves a deep, almost unnatural green. The air was thick with energy, and Naruto could feel it thrumming through his body. "What just happened?" he asked, his voice trembling with awe. The figure, now standing beside him, spoke again, this time in a language Naruto could understand. "You are in a place between worlds, a rift created by forces beyond your understanding. You have been chosen, Naruto Uzumaki, to play a role in a conflict that spans dimensions." Naruto turned to the figure, his eyes wide. "A conflict? What do you mean? Who are you?" The figure's glowing eyes seemed to pierce through him. "We are travelers, beings from other worlds who have been drawn here by the same force that brought you. But you are different, Naruto. You possess a power that could tip the balance in this war." Naruto's heart pounded in his chest. He had faced many challenges before, but this was something entirely new. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his insides. The figure extended a hand. "Join us. Together, we can stop the one responsible for this chaos and restore balance to the dimensions. But be warned, this journey will test you in ways you cannot imagine." Naruto stared at the offered hand, his mind racing. He thought of his friends in Konoha, of the life he had built there. But he also thought of the countless lives at stake, of the duty he felt to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. With a deep breath, Naruto made his decision. "All right," he said, taking the figure's hand. "I'm in." As the figure smiled and the forest around them began to fade, Naruto couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead. But one thing was certain, he was about to embark on an adventure unlike any other. And this time, the fate of more than just his world was at stake. Naruto's senses buzzed with the remnants of the strange energy that had brought him to this new world. He walked alongside the mysterious figure through the fading forest, the landscape shifting around them like a dream dissolving into reality. The figure, still shrouded in shadow, led him forward with purposeful strides, their destination unknown to Naruto, but seemingly clear to his guide. As the last of the forest vanished, Naruto found himself standing before a massive structure, an enormous mansion surrounded by sprawling grounds. The building was both majestic and foreboding, its tall Gothic spires piercing the cloudy sky. The mansion was alive with a hum of activity that Naruto could sense even from the outside. The energy within was like nothing he had ever felt before. It wasn't chakra, but it thrummed with a power that made his skin tingle. "Where are we?" Naruto asked, his voice tinged with awe and suspicion. He glanced at his guide, who now appeared more humanoid, though still cloaked in shadows. The orb of light that had led him here floated gently above the figure's open palm, casting an ethereal glow around them. "This is the Xavier Institute," the figure replied, their voice echoing slightly as if multiple people were speaking at once. "A sanctuary for those who are different, those with powers that set them apart from ordinary humans." "Different like me?" Naruto questioned, though he already knew the answer. He had never quite fit into the world he came from, and now he found himself in a place where difference was the rule, not the exception. "Yes," the figure said, nodding. "But also different in ways you cannot yet understand. The people here, they are called mutants. Their abilities manifest from a unique genetic mutation, unlike the chakra you know. But that is why you're here, Naruto. The forces that brought you here threaten both your world and this one. You are needed to tip the balance." Naruto's eyes narrowed, a mix of skepticism and curiosity swirling within him. "So, what now? Am I supposed to just walk in there and introduce myself?" The figure chuckled softly, a sound that seemed to echo through the air. "Not exactly. You will be guided. Your arrival has been anticipated by those within. But beware, this place is not without its dangers. Trust must be earned, and the path ahead will not be easy." Before Naruto could respond, the figure's form began to dissolve into mist, the orb of light fading with it. "Wait." Naruto called out, but the figure was already gone, leaving him alone in front of the mansion's imposing entrance. Naruto took a deep breath, steeling himself. He had faced down rogue shinobi, monstrous beasts, and even gods. He could handle whatever this new world threw at him. With that thought in mind, he pushed open the heavy, ornate doors and stepped inside. The interior of the mansion was just as grand as the exterior. A vast foyer greeted him, with polished marble floors and a sweeping staircase that led to the upper levels. The walls were lined with portraits and tapestries, each one depicting scenes of battle, peace, and everything in between. Despite the mansion's age, everything was meticulously maintained, the air filled with a faint scent of old books and something distinctly metallic. Naruto took a few tentative steps forward, his ears catching the faint murmur of voices from deeper within the mansion. As he rounded a corner, he nearly collided with a woman in a flowing white cloak. She had striking white hair that cascaded down her back and eyes that seemed to glow with an inner light. She paused, her eyes locking onto Naruto with a mix of surprise and curiosity. "You must be Naruto Uzumaki," she said, her voice smooth and commanding. "I've been expecting you." Naruto blinked, momentarily taken aback by her presence. Yeah. That's me. And you are?" "I am Aurora Monroe, though most here know me as Storm," she replied, extending a hand in greeting. "Welcome to the Xavier Institute." Naruto shook her hand, noting the firmness of her grip. Despite her calm demeanor, there was a power in her that he could sense, a force of nature barely contained beneath the surface. "Nice to meet you, Storm," Naruto said, offering her a grin. "So, what's this place about? And why am I here?" Storm gestured for him to follow, leading him deeper into the mansion. As they walked, she explained, "This institute is a refuge for mutants, people who are born with extraordinary abilities. We train them to control their powers, to use them for the betterment of both mutants and humans. But we also protect them from those who would seek to harm them." She paused, glancing at Naruto. "Your arrival here is no coincidence. There is a disturbance in the balance of our worlds, and you are a key part of resolving it. Professor Xavier, the leader of this institute, believes that you may be able to help us understand and combat this threat." Naruto nodded, absorbing her words. It made sense, he had been thrust into world-ending battles before, so why should this time be any different? "Alright, I'm in. So, where do we start?" Storm smiled, clearly pleased with his readiness. "First, you will meet Professor Xavier. He is eager to speak with you. After that, we will introduce you to the rest of the team." Naruto followed Storm through a series of hallways until they reached a pair of large wooden doors. Storm knocked lightly before pushing them open, revealing a spacious study filled with books, maps, and strange devices that hummed with energy. At the center of the room, behind a massive oak desk, sat an older man with a bald head and kind, yet piercing eyes. He exuded an aura of wisdom and authority, the kind that only comes from years of experience. "Ah, Naruto Uzumaki," the man greeted with a warm smile. "I am Professor Charles Xavier. Please, come in." Naruto stepped into the study, feeling the weight of the professor's gaze on him. "Nice to meet you, Professor," Naruto said, trying to keep his tone casual. "Storm told me you're the guy who runs this place." Xavier chuckled softly. "Yes, you could say that. But more importantly, I guide those who come here, much like I hope to guide you." Naruto nodded, taking a seat across from the professor. "So, what's the deal? Why am I here?" Xavier leaned forward, his expression growing serious. "Naruto, the worlds are in danger, yours and ours. The rift that brought you here is a symptom of a much larger problem, one that threatens to collapse the boundaries between dimensions. If that happens, the consequences will be catastrophic." Naruto frowned, the gravity of Xavier's words sinking in. "So, what do we do?" Xavier's eyes gleamed with determination. "We fight. But not just with strength, with understanding. You bring something unique to this battle, Naruto. Your experience, your power and your heart. Together, we can find a way to restore balance." Naruto's resolve hardened. He had always fought to protect those he cared about, and now, that responsibility extended to this new world. "I'm ready," he said, his voice firm. "Whatever it takes." Xavier smiled, a hint of pride in his eyes. "Good. Then let us begin." As Naruto left the study with Storm, he felt a strange mix of emotions, excitement, fear, and a growing sense of purpose. He was far from home, but in this mansion filled with strangers, he could sense the beginning of something that might just become a new kind of family. And with that thought, he stepped forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The corridors of the Xavier Institute were a labyrinth of secrets, each hallway steeped in a history Naruto was just beginning to understand. As Storm led him through the mansion, her calm presence a steadying force, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The hairs on the back of his neck prickled, his instincts honed from years of being a shinobi alerting him to a presence lurking just beyond his sight. They arrived at a large training room, the walls lined with advanced equipment and weapons that looked as alien to Naruto as the world he now inhabited. "This is the danger room," Storm explained, her voice echoing slightly in the vast space. "It's where we train, where we push our limits." Naruto nodded, barely listening. His senses were still on high alert, the feeling of being watched now more intense. He scanned the room, his eyes narrowing as he caught a flicker of movement in the shadows. "Storm," he said quietly, "we're not alone." Before Storm could react, a figure emerged from the darkness, her movements fluid and cat-like. She was tall and lithe, with fiery red hair that framed a face both beautiful and fierce. Her yellow eyes glowed with a predatory intensity, and her entire demeanor screamed danger. "Ah, so this is the famous Naruto Uzumaki," the woman purred, her voice smooth as silk, but laced with a hint of mockery. "I was wondering when we'd finally meet." Storm stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. Mystique, she said coolly, her voice carrying an edge of warning. What are you doing here? Mystique smirked, her gaze never leaving Naruto. I'm simply curious about our new guest. He's quite the anomaly, isn't he? A ninja from another world, how intriguing. Naruto sized her up, his instincts telling him that this woman was far more dangerous than she appeared. What do you want? He asked, his voice steady, though his body tensed, ready for a fight. Mystique tilted her head, her smirk widening. I want to know why you're here and more importantly, what you're capable of. She took a step closer, her movements deliberate, like a predator stalking its prey. You see, in this world, power is everything. And I have a feeling you're just full of surprises. Naruto didn't back down, meeting her gaze with an unwavering resolve. If you want to see what I can do, all you have to do is try something. Storm moved to Naruto's side, her stance protective. That's enough, Mystique. Naruto is our guest, and you will respect that. Mystique chuckled, a low, throaty sound. Relax, Storm. I'm not here to fight yet. I'm simply observing. She glanced at Naruto, her eyes narrowing. But I have a feeling we'll cross paths again, sooner or later. With that, Mystique's form began to shimmer, her body dissolving into a cloud of black smoke. Before Naruto could react, she was gone, leaving nothing but the faint scent of danger in the air. Naruto exhaled, releasing the tension in his muscles. Who was that? He asked, turning to Storm. Mystique, Storm replied, her tone grave. She's a shapeshifter and one of the most dangerous mutants alive. Her allegiance is fluid, to say the least. She's always playing her own game, and it's rarely in anyone else's favor. Naruto frowned, his mind racing. She didn't seem like she was just passing by. No, Storm agreed. Mystique is always after something. We'll have to be careful. She's not someone to underestimate. Naruto nodded, understanding the warning in her words. This world was filled with people who wielded power differently than the shinobi he was used to, but the danger was just as real. He would need to stay on his toes, ready for whatever came next. Come on, Storm said, breaking the silence. There's more to see. As they left the danger room behind, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that Mystique's encounter was just the beginning. She was a shadow in the corner of his mind now, a reminder that this world held as many enemies as it did allies. And he had a feeling she wasn't the only one watching him from the shadows. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the Xavier Institute as the day transitioned into twilight. Naruto stood on one of the balconies, overlooking the vast, meticulously maintained gardens. The cool evening breeze played with his hair, but his thoughts were elsewhere, tangled in the events of the day. The encounter with Mystique had left him unsettled, but it was more than just her presence that weighed on his mind. As he leaned on the railing, lost in thought, the soft sound of footsteps approached from behind. He turned to see a woman with striking red hair, her eyes an intense shade of emerald green that seemed to glow with an inner light. She was dressed in a deep red cloak that flowed around her like a living thing, adding an air of mystery to her already enigmatic presence. Wanda, Storm had called her earlier, but most knew her as the Scarlet Witch. Lost in thought, Naruto. Wanda's voice was soft, almost melodic, but there was a sadness beneath it, like the echo of a long-forgotten sorrow. Naruto nodded, turning his gaze back to the horizon. This world, it's so different from mine. But some things feel the same. The battles, the people, even the loneliness. Wanda moved closer, her presence both comforting and charged with an energy Naruto couldn't quite place. I know what it's like to feel like you don't belong, to be trapped between two worlds, unsure of where you fit in. Her words struck a chord with Naruto. He had always felt like an outsider, even in Konoha, the village he had sworn to protect. But here, in this new world, that feeling was magnified 100-fold. Yeah, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. It's like no matter where I go, I'm always on the outside, looking in. Wanda smiled, a small, sad smile that spoke of her own struggles. You're not alone in that feeling, Naruto. We all have our burdens to bear, our battles to fight. She paused, her eyes searching his face. But you don't have to carry it all by yourself. Naruto looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the pain she hid beneath her calm exterior. She was a powerful mutant, capable of bending reality itself to her will, yet there was a fragility to her, a vulnerability that resonated with him. Wanda, he began, unsure of how to express the whirlwind of emotion swirling inside him. How do you keep going? How do you deal with it all? Wanda sighed, her gaze turning to the darkening sky. I've made mistakes, Naruto. Terrible mistakes. There are days when the weight of what I've done feels like it could crush me. But I keep going because I have to. Because there are people who need me, who rely on me. Her words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. Naruto understood. He had carried the burden of being the nine-tails Jinchuriki for most of his life, had been shunned and feared because of it. But he had found strength in his friends, in the people who believed in him. I guess it's the same for me, Naruto said, finding comfort in their shared pain. I've done things I'm not proud of, too. but I keep fighting because it's all I know how to do." Wanda reached out, placing a hand on his arm. Her touch was warm, grounding him in the present. "You're stronger than you realize, Naruto. And you're not alone here. We may come from different worlds, but we're not so different." Naruto felt a connection with Wanda that he hadn't expected, a bond forged not just by their shared experiences, but by the understanding that came with them. He smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Thanks, Wanda. I needed to hear that." Wanda returned his smile, though the sadness never fully left her eyes. "Anytime, Naruto." As they stood together in the fading light, a sense of peace settled over Naruto. He still had questions, still felt the weight of the unknown, but for the first time since arriving in this world, he felt like he wasn't completely lost. Wanda's presence was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there was always someone who understood, who could share the burden. And for Naruto, that made all the difference. Morning light filtered through the tall windows of the Xavier Institute, casting a warm glow over the mansion's expansive kitchen. Naruto sat at the large wooden table, his fingers tapping absently against a glass of orange juice. He was still adjusting to the routine of this new world, but the comforts of the institute were a welcome change from the constant battles he had faced back in Konoha. As he sat there, lost in thought, the door swung open, and in walked Aurora, her presence as calm and serene as always. Right behind her was Jean Grey, her red hair catching the sunlight as she entered. They both smiled at Naruto, who returned the gesture, feeling a sense of normalcy settling in. "Good morning, Naruto," Jean said as she grabbed a cup of coffee. "How are you adjusting?" "Morning," Naruto replied, shrugging slightly. "I'm getting used to it, I guess. Still a lot to take in, though." Aurora poured herself a cup of tea before sitting down across from Naruto. "It's understandable. You've been thrust into a world so different from your own, and yet you've adapted remarkably well." Naruto smiled, appreciating her kind words. "Thanks, Aurora. It's easier with all of you helping me out." As they settled into a comfortable silence, the door opened again, and in walked Wanda. Naruto's heart skipped a beat, the memory of their conversation on the balcony still fresh in his mind. She met his gaze, her expression softening into a warm smile. "Good morning," Wanda greeted, her voice carrying a gentle warmth. "Morning, Wanda," Naruto replied, feeling a strange sense of comfort in her presence. Jean looked between them, a knowing smile tugging at her lips. "It seems like you two are getting along well." Naruto scratched the back of his head, a little embarrassed. "Yeah, Wanda's been really great. She understands a lot of what I'm going through." Wanda sat down beside him, her shoulder brushing against his. "We all have our struggles, Naruto. But we don't have to face them alone." Jean and Aurora exchanged a glance, both recognizing the bond forming between Naruto and Wanda. They had seen this before, two people finding solace in each other amidst the chaos of their lives. As they chatted, the conversation turned to training, and Naruto couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. "So, what's the training like here? I've seen some pretty crazy stuff since I got here." Aurora chuckled, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "It's intense, but nothing you can't handle. I think you'll find it both challenging and rewarding." Wanda nodded in agreement. "The danger room can simulate almost any environment, any scenario. It pushes us to our limits, but it also helps us grow stronger." Naruto grinned, his competitive spirit ignited. "Sounds like fun. I'm ready for anything." "Careful what you wish for," Jean teased, her tone light. "The danger room has a way of surprising even the most seasoned among us." Naruto laughed, feeling more at ease than he had since arriving at the institute. These people know, his friends were helping him find his place in this new world. And while the challenges ahead were daunting, he felt ready to face them. As they continued talking, the door opened once more, and in walked Scott Summers, also known as Cyclops. He nodded at everyone before taking a seat. "Morning," he said, his tone friendly but with a hint of authority. "Morning, Scott," Naruto said, still trying to figure out the dynamic of the team. He had heard plenty about Cyclops, about his leadership and the respect he commanded among the X-Men. Scott turned to Naruto, a small smile playing on his lips. "I hear you've been adjusting well. That's good. We could use someone with your skills." Naruto met his gaze, appreciating the compliment. "Thanks, Scott. I'm ready to help out however I can." Scott nodded approvingly. "You'll get your chance. We're a team here, and every member is important. We look out for each other." The conversation drifted into light-hearted banter, and Naruto felt something shift inside him. These people weren't just allies, they were becoming his friends, his new family. The bonds forming between them were real, and for the first time in a long while, Naruto felt like he was exactly where he needed to be. As the morning wore on and the group dispersed to start their day, Naruto lingered in the kitchen, his thoughts lingering on the warmth he had felt in their company. He was no longer alone, no longer the outcast he had once been. Here, among the X-Men, he had found a place where he belonged. And that, Naruto realized, was worth fighting for. The halls of the Xavier Institute were quiet as Naruto made his way through the mansion late that evening. The day's training had been intense, pushing him to the limits of his abilities, but it wasn't the physical strain that kept him awake. Something had been bothering him, an unease that gnawed at the edges of his mind, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something important. He wandered aimlessly at first, his feet carrying him through the dimly lit corridors, until he found himself standing outside a familiar door, the entrance to the professor's office. Naruto hesitated, unsure of what he was looking for, but then he heard voices from inside. The door was slightly ajar, and Naruto could hear the low murmur of conversation. Curiosity getting the better of him, he stepped closer, listening intently. "I'm concerned, Charles," came Storm's voice, laced with worry. "Naruto's abilities, they're unlike anything we've encountered. There's a power within him that even he doesn't fully understand." Professor Xavier's voice followed, calm and measured as always. "Yes, Aurora, I've sensed it as well. The energy he carries, it's fast, but also volatile. The QB within him is a force of nature, and while Naruto has control over it, the potential for destruction is always present." Naruto felt his breath catch in his throat. He had known the X-Men were aware of his powers, but hearing them speak so openly about the QB, the nine tails sealed within him, sent a shiver down his spine. "He's been through so much," Storm continued, her tone softening. "I fear that the weight of it all might be too much for him to bear, especially in this unfamiliar world." There was a pause before Professor Xavier spoke again. "Naruto is stronger than he realizes. He's endured more than most, and it's made him resilient. But you're right, Aurora, he needs guidance, and more importantly, he needs to trust us. We cannot help him if he keeps his secrets hidden." Naruto's heart pounded in his chest. He had never intended to keep secrets from them, but the truth about the QB, about his past, was complicated. He had spent so long carrying the burden alone that the idea of sharing it felt foreign, almost impossible. But these people, his new friends, deserved to know. They had welcomed him into their world, into their lives, without hesitation. They had shown him kindness, understanding, and camaraderie. Could he really continue to hide the truth from them? Naruto took a deep breath, steadying himself. Before he could second-guess his decision, he pushed the door open, stepping into the room. Both Storm and Professor Xavier looked up in surprise, but neither spoke, waiting for Naruto to make the first move. "Professor, Aurora," Naruto began, his voice steady despite the storm of emotion swirling inside him. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard what you were saying. And I think it's time I told you everything." Xavier nodded, his expression encouraging. "We're here to listen, Naruto. Whatever you want to share, we're ready." Naruto looked between them, gathering his thoughts. "Back in my world, I was born with a demon sealed inside me. The QB, the Nine Tails, is one of the most powerful beings in existence, and it was sealed within me when I was just a baby. For most of my life, people feared me because of it. They saw me as a monster, not as a person." Storm's eyes softened with empathy, but she remained silent, letting Naruto continue. "I spent years trying to prove them wrong, trying to show that I was more than just a vessel for the QB. But the truth is, the power inside me is dangerous. I've learned to control it, to use it for good, but there's always a risk that it could overwhelm me. That's why I didn't tell you everything. I didn't want to bring that kind of danger into your world." Xavier leaned forward, his gaze intense but filled with understanding. "Naruto, the fact that you've carried this burden for so long and still choose to protect others speaks volumes about your character. The QB may be powerful, but it's your heart, your will, that defines who you are." Storm nodded in agreement. "You're not defined by the QB, Naruto. You're defined by the choices you make, and you've chosen to fight for what's right. That's what matters." Naruto felt a wave of relief wash over him, the tension in his shoulders easing, as he realized they didn't see him as a threat, but as an ally, someone they could trust. "Thank you," Naruto said, his voice thick with emotion. "I didn't know how you'd react, but I'm glad I told you. I don't want to hide anything from you anymore." Xavier smiled, a warm and reassuring smile. "We're all part of the same team, Naruto. And that means we face our challenges together, as one." Naruto nodded, feeling a deep sense of belonging. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like an outsider, like a monster. He felt like part of something bigger, something that could help him find his place in this new world. And that, he realized, was the start of something truly special. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the Xavier Institute's grounds. The air was thick with the scent of pine, and a cool breeze whispered through the trees, hinting at the changing seasons. Inside the mansion, the atmosphere was tense. Naruto stood with his arms crossed, listening intently as Professor Xavier briefed the team in the war room. The holographic display before them illuminated the faces of the X-Men, all gathered to discuss the latest threat. "Cerebro has detected a disturbance in New York City," Xavier explained, his voice calm but laced with urgency. "It appears to be the work of mutants, but these aren't ordinary mutants. Their powers are being amplified beyond what's naturally possible. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Amplified? How? Xavier glanced at Storm, who stepped forward to explain. We believe they're using a device, something that enhances their abilities to dangerous levels. It's not unlike the technology we've seen before, but the scale of this is unprecedented. Cyclops, ever the strategist, frowned as he studied the display. If they're using a device, it means someone is behind this. Someone with the resources and knowledge to manipulate mutant powers. Wolverine growled low in his throat, his claws extending slightly in response to the rising tension. Sounds like we're dealing with more than just a bunch of rogue mutants. There's a mastermind pulling the strings. Naruto clenched his fists, a familiar determination rising within him. Then we take down the mastermind. Whoever's behind this, we can't let them hurt innocent people. Xavier nodded, appreciative of Naruto's resolve. Precisely. But we must be cautious. Whoever this enemy is, they're well prepared and they're expecting a fight. As the team continued discussing their plan, Naruto's mind drifted, thoughts racing as he considered the implications of this new enemy. He had faced powerful foes before, enemies who sought to control or destroy, but this was different. The stakes were higher and the danger more immediate. He couldn't help but wonder who could be behind such a calculated attack. Wanda, standing nearby, noticed the troubled look on Naruto's face. She moved closer, her voice soft as she addressed him. Something on your mind? Naruto glanced at her, the concern in her eyes, a stark contrast to the chaos around them. I've seen this kind of thing before. People who want power, who'll do anything to get it. But this feels different. Like there's more at play here. Wanda nodded, her gaze drifting back to the holographic display. I know what you mean. There's a darkness to this, something that feels unnatural. Before Naruto could respond, the room suddenly filled with an ominous hum. The holographic display flickered, the image of the city distorting as if corrupted by some unseen force. Then, as quickly as it started, the interference vanished, replaced by a new image, a live feed of the city streets. The scene was chaotic. Buildings were crumbling, fires raged uncontrollably, and in the midst of it all, figures moved with unnatural speed and power. The mutants, enhanced beyond their limits, were wreaking havoc, their abilities tearing through the city like a force of nature. We have to move now. Cyclops barked, his leadership instincts kicking in. Team, get ready. We're heading out. Naruto's heart pounded as he watched the destruction unfold. This wasn't just a fight, it was a war zone. And somewhere in the chaos was the enemy, pulling the strings, pushing these mutants to the brink. As the X-Men scrambled to prepare, Naruto felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to see Storm, her expression serious but supportive. Naruto, you've proven yourself time and again. But this mission, it's going to test all of us. Stay focused and trust in your abilities. We'll face this together. Naruto nodded, the weight of her words settling in. I won't let you down. We'll stop them, no matter what it takes. With that, the team moved out, boarding the X-Jet in record time. As they soared over the city, the full extent of the destruction became clear. Fires burned in every direction, and the sound of distant explosions echoed through the night. But amid the chaos, Naruto's eyes were drawn to a specific location, a tall skyscraper in the heart of the city, its top floors engulfed in an eerie green light. There, he pointed out to the team. That building, it's different from the others. That light, it feels wrong. Jean, who had been scanning the area with her telepathy, nodded in agreement. There's something twisted up there. Minds that aren't their own. It's like they're being controlled. Naruto's jaw tightened. Then that's where we need to go. Cyclops adjusted the jet's course, steering them directly toward the skyscraper. Buckle up, everyone. This is going to get rough. As they approached, the green light flared brighter, and Naruto could sense the malevolent energy pulsing from within. This was it, the enemy's stronghold, the source of the power that was tearing the city apart. Naruto's mind raced as he prepared for the battle ahead. He didn't know who or what awaited them inside, but he knew one thing for sure. This fight was about more than just stopping a villain. It was about protecting his new home, his new friends. And he would do whatever it took to keep them safe. The X-Jet descended through the smoky haze over New York City, the skyline a chaotic blend of flames and shadows. Naruto, Wanda, Storm, Cyclops, and the rest of the team readied themselves for the imminent battle. As the jet touched down on a rooftop adjacent to the skyscraper that pulsed with sinister green light, the X-Men quickly disembarked, each member steeling themselves for what lay ahead. Naruto's eyes scanned the area, his senses heightened. The air was thick with the acrid scent of burning buildings, and the distant wail of sirens added to the cacophony. He could feel the oppressive energy emanating from the skyscraper, a tangible weight that pressed against his chest. Wanda approached him, her expression a mix of determination and concern. We're going to need to stay focused. This place is brimming with dark energy. It's affecting everyone. Naruto nodded, appreciating her support. I'll keep my guard up. Let's stick together and end this. The team moved swiftly, their goal clear. Infiltrate the skyscraper and neutralize the threat. As they entered through a side entrance, the oppressive green light grew more intense, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The corridor ahead was littered with debris, a stark reminder of the destruction wrought by their enemies. "Stay alert," Cyclops instructed, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "We don't know what's waiting for us." The group advanced cautiously, their footsteps echoing through the deserted hallways. As they neared the central elevator shaft, the team split up to cover more ground, with Naruto and Wanda moving together, their path converging on the source of the energy. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding, revealing a dimly lit shaft. Naruto and Wanda exchanged a glance, the tension between them palpable. There was a shared understanding of the gravity of their mission, but also a silent acknowledgement of the bond that had been growing between them. "I'll go first," Naruto said, stepping into the shaft. "We'll be quicker if we take the stairs." Wanda nodded, following closely behind. As they climbed, Naruto couldn't help but steal glances at her. In the midst of the turmoil, the moments they shared had become a sanctuary of sorts, a brief escape from the world's harshness. Their ascent was swift but tense. They reached the top floors, where the energy's intensity was nearly overwhelming. Naruto and Wanda pushed through a set of heavy doors, emerging into a vast, high-tech control room. At the center stood a massive device, humming with the same green energy that had been suffusing the city. Standing before the device was a figure cloaked in shadows, their presence radiating malice. "Welcome," the figure intoned, their voice chilling and devoid of warmth. "You've come to stop me, but you're too late. The power is mine to control, and soon, the city will bow before me." Naruto's eyes narrowed. "Who are you? Why are you doing this?" The figure's cloak parted slightly, revealing a face that was both familiar and unsettling. "I am someone with a vision. The world needs order, and I will bring it, even if it requires a touch of chaos to do so." Wanda's eyes flashed with anger. "You're hurting innocent people. This isn't order, it's tyranny." The figure smiled coldly. "You're so naive. Order requires sacrifice." As the confrontation escalated, Naruto and Wanda moved to engage. The figure unleashed a surge of dark energy, the room filled with blinding light and violent force. Naruto deflected the attack with his Rasengan, while Wanda used her chaos magic to counter the figure's energy blasts. Despite their efforts, the enemy was formidable, and the battle quickly turned fierce. Naruto's movements were swift and precise, his chakra flowing with each strike. Wanda's magic crackled with raw power, her spells weaving a web of defense and attack. In the midst of the battle, Naruto caught Wanda's eye. There was a moment of unspoken connection, a shared resolve to protect each other, despite the danger surrounding them. As they fought side by side, their synchronization became almost instinctive, a testament to the bond they had forged. But even as they pushed forward, the figure's device continued to hum ominously, its energy building to a crescendo. Naruto knew they had to act quickly to prevent a disaster. "Wanda, I need you to cover me," Naruto shouted over the din of battle. "I'm going to try to disable the device." Wanda nodded, her face set with determination. "Be careful." Naruto darted toward the device, dodging blasts of energy and debris. With a series of rapid hand signs, he unleashed a barrage of Rasengan attacks aimed at the core of the device. The energy fluctuated violently, the device's control system sparking and sputtering. Wanda's protection spells shielded Naruto from the worst of the attacks, her eyes locked on him with unwavering focus. The tension was palpable, every moment fraught with the risk of failure. Finally, with one last powerful Rasengan, Naruto struck the device's core. The device groaned, its green light flickering erratically before it exploded in a shower of sparks and shattered metal. The figure, caught off guard by the explosion, staggered back, their dark energy dissipating. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the city's distant sirens began to wail less urgently, signaling the end of the immediate threat. Breathing heavily, Naruto and Wanda stood amidst the wreckage, their faces reflecting the relief and exhaustion of their hard-fought victory. Naruto turned to Wanda, his heart pounding not just from the battle, but from the intensity of the moment they had shared. "Thank you," Naruto said, his voice soft but sincere. "I couldn't have done it without you." Wanda smiled, her gaze filled with warmth. "We make a good team." As they made their way back to the X-Jet, the city's skyline now visible without the oppressive green light, Naruto felt a deep sense of connection. In the midst of war and chaos, something profound had grown between him and Wanda, a bond forged in the heat of battle and tempered by shared struggles. The night had been long and fraught with danger, but as they looked out over the city, the sense of accomplishment and the bond they shared gave Naruto hope. In a world filled with conflict, he had found something precious, something worth fighting for. And in that moment, he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them not just as a warrior, but as someone deeply connected to the people around him. The dawn was breaking over New York City as the X-Jet landed back at the Xavier Institute. The battle was over, but the aftermath left the city scarred and weary. Inside the mansion, the team regrouped, their faces reflecting the toll the night had taken. The once chaotic atmosphere of the war room had now settled into a focused quiet, with the team gathered around the central table. Professor Xavier and the X-Men scrutinized the data retrieved from the shattered device, their faces etched with concern. Naruto and Wanda joined them, their clothes singed and their expressions marked by fatigue. Despite the battle's end, a sense of unease lingered in the air. "Professor," Cyclops began, breaking the silence. "What do we know about our mysterious adversary?" Xavier activated the holographic projector, displaying a series of images and data streams. The device we encountered was sophisticated, but its core design was based on a combination of advanced technology and dark magic. It seems that whoever was behind this knew how to merge these elements to amplify mutant abilities. Naruto crossed his arms, his brow furrowed. But who could have this kind of knowledge and resources? And why target New York? Wanda's eyes were fixed on the holographic images. The enemy was using the device to control and enhance mutants. That kind of power doesn't just fall into anyone's hands. There's a bigger plan here. The room fell into a thoughtful silence. Storm, her expression serious, spoke up. "The figure we face seemed to have a personal agenda, a vision of imposing order through chaos. But who are they really, and what is their ultimate goal?" As if on cue, a sudden flash of light erupted from the holographic display. The images shifted to show a figure cloaked in darkness, their face obscured by shadows. The hologram emitted a low, resonant hum, and a familiar voice echoed through the room. "Welcome, X-Men. I trust you enjoyed the show." The figure's voice was chilling, a sinister mix of amusement and malice. The team tensed, recognizing the voice from their encounter with the enemy. The image began to coalesce, revealing a more defined shape. A tall, imposing figure with piercing eyes and an air of arrogance. "This is the leader of the plot," Xavier said, his voice steady despite the tension. "We've encountered this individual before under a different guise. They go by the name of Dr. Narius, a rogue scientist with a twisted vision of reshaping the world." Naruto's eyes widened. "Dr. Narius. I've heard of him. He's known for his experiments with mutant DNA and dark technology." Xavier nodded. "Exactly. Dr. Narius has been operating in the shadows, seeking to harness and control mutant powers for his own purposes. His ultimate goal is to create a new world order where he holds absolute control." Wanda's gaze hardened. "He's not just a threat to mutants. His plans endanger everyone." Cyclops nodded in agreement. "We need to find him and stop him before he can execute his full plan." Dr. Narius's holographic image flickered, and he spoke again. "You're too late. The device I used was just a prototype. The real power lies in my ultimate creation, a device capable of controlling every mutant in the world. Soon, you'll all see the true extent of my vision." The projection ended, leaving the room in heavy silence. The reality of the threat weighed heavily on the team. Wolverine growled, his claws unsheathed. "We need to get to him before he unleashes this device. Where do we start?" Xavier's expression was grave. "Dr. Narius is hiding in an abandoned facility on the outskirts of the city. It's heavily fortified, and he's likely prepared for an assault." Naruto stepped forward, determination in his eyes. "Then we're going in. We have to stop him from completing his device." The team prepared for their next move, gathering their gear and strategizing. The urgency was palpable, each member focused on the impending mission. The threat of Dr. Narius and his ultimate device cast a long shadow over their plans. As they headed out, Naruto found himself walking beside Wanda. Despite the gravity of the situation, he couldn't help but feel a sense of resolve. They had faced danger together, and now, more than ever, he felt a deep connection to her. "We'll stop him," Naruto said, his voice low but firm. "We've faced tough battles before, and we've always come through. We can't let him win." Wanda's eyes met his, filled with a mix of determination and warmth. "We're in this together. We'll fight for everyone who's at risk." The team arrived at the facility, its dark silhouette looming ominously against the early morning sky. The building was surrounded by a high fence, with guards and security systems in place. Naruto and the X-Men moved stealthily, their approach carefully coordinated to avoid detection. As they breached the facility, they encountered fierce resistance from Dr. Narius's forces. The battle was intense, each member of the team showcasing their skills and powers. Naruto fought with precision, his Rasengan tearing through the opposition. Wanda's magic wove through the battlefield, countering attacks and protecting her allies. Finally, they reached the central chamber, where Dr. Narius awaited them, standing next to a massive intricate device. The air crackled with energy, and Dr. Narius's eyes gleamed with a dangerous light. "Welcome to the endgame," he sneered. "You've arrived just in time to witness the dawn of a new era." The confrontation was imminent, the final battle looming on the horizon. The stakes were higher than ever, and the outcome would determine the fate of not just mutants, but the world itself. Naruto and the X-Men prepared for the ultimate clash, their resolve unshakable. They knew that this battle was not just about stopping Dr. Narius's plans, it was about protecting their world from a darkness that threatened to engulf it. As they faced the impending confrontation, Naruto felt a surge of determination. No matter what challenges lay ahead, he and his allies would stand together, fighting for a future free from tyranny and control. The air was thick with tension as Naruto, Wanda, and the X-Men prepared for their final assault on Dr. Narius's facility. The massive structure loomed ahead, its dark silhouette ominous against the grey dawn. Inside, the fate of countless lives hung in the balance, and every member of the team knew that this battle could determine the future. As they approached the entrance, the team's strategy was clear. Infiltrate the facility, disable Dr. Narius's device, and neutralize any threats. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation, the calm before the storm. "We need to split into teams," Cyclops instructed, his voice authoritative. "Naruto, Wanda, and Storm, you'll take the West Wing and disable the security systems. Wolverine, Beast, and I will handle the East Wing. Stay in constant communication." Naruto nodded, his eyes focused and determined. "Understood. We'll move quickly." The teams went their separate ways, each group navigating through the labyrinthine corridors of the facility. Naruto, Wanda, and Storm made their way through the dimly lit passages, the hum of machinery filling the air. The facility was a maze of high-tech equipment and darkened rooms, a testament to Dr. Narius's twisted genius. As they reached a control room, Storm used her powers to create a protective shield, while Naruto and Wanda worked on the security systems. The room was filled with blinking lights and humming consoles, their screens displaying complex schematics of the facility. Wanda concentrated, her magic flowing as she manipulated the control panel. "I can access the mainframe from here. Let's see if we can shut down the security grid." Naruto kept a vigilant watch, his senses on high alert. The feeling of being watched was palpable, but he pushed it aside, focusing on their immediate task. "We need to be quick. The sooner we disable the security, the sooner we can reach Dr. Narius." Suddenly, the door to the control room burst open, and a group of guards stormed in. The three X-Men sprang into action. Storm summoned a violent wind, throwing the guards off balance, while Naruto engaged them directly, his Rasengan smashing through their defenses. Wanda's spell struck with precision, immobilizing several guards and creating an opening for them to escape. Once the immediate threat was neutralized, they returned to their task. Wanda's fingers danced over the control panel, her magic intertwining with the technology. "Got it. The security systems are down. We can move forward." As they proceeded deeper into the facility, a new challenge emerged. They encountered a series of heavily fortified doors, each one requiring a complex access code. Naruto's patience was tested as he worked alongside Wanda and Storm, combining their skills to bypass the advanced security measures. Meanwhile, in the East Wing, Cyclops, Wolverine, and Beast faced their own challenges. The corridors were lined with automated defenses, and the team engaged in a fierce battle with Dr. Narius's robotic sentries. Cyclops' optic blasts tore through the machines, while Wolverine's claws sliced through metal with deadly precision. Beast used his agility and strength to disable the robots, his movements a blur of calculated aggression. Despite their success, a sense of unease lingered. Cyclops noticed a suspiciously high level of resistance, more than they had anticipated. "Be on guard. This feels like more than just a security measure." Back with Naruto's team, the facility's control center loomed ahead. The trio navigated through a series of complex corridors, finally reaching the central chamber where Dr. Narius's device was located. The room was filled with machinery and dark energy, the device pulsating ominously. They were not alone. From the shadows, a figure emerged, their face partially obscured by a hood. The figure's presence was unsettling, and the team's instincts immediately went on high alert. "Who's there?" Naruto demanded, his eyes narrowing. The hooded figure stepped forward, revealing a familiar face. It was a former ally of the X-Men, a mutant with the ability to manipulate shadows. "You're too late. The device is already activated, and Dr. Narius's plans are already in motion." Wanda's eyes widened in shock. "You were working with Narius. Why?" The figure's expression was cold. "Narius offered me power beyond my wildest dreams. Power to reshape the world as I see fit. He promised me everything." Storm's face hardened. "You've betrayed us. We trusted you." The traitor's eyes flashed with a mix of defiance and regret. "Trust is a luxury in this world. I chose survival over allegiance." The confrontation was intense. Naruto, Wanda, and Storm fought against their former ally, the battle a chaotic mix of energy and physical combat. Despite their best efforts, the traitor proved to be a formidable opponent, their shadow manipulation creating an almost impenetrable defense. Naruto's frustration grew as he struggled to land a decisive blow. "We can't let them distract us. We have to focus on the device." Wanda, her face set with determination, unleashed a powerful spell, creating a vortex of energy that briefly incapacitated the traitor. Go. Disable the device. I'll hold them off. Naruto and Storm rushed toward the device, working together to disable its controls. The device was a complex array of dark energy and technology, and Naruto's Rasengan was instrumental in dismantling its core components. As he worked, the facility's alarms blared, signaling that the system was reaching a critical threshold. Wanda's spell created a protective barrier around Naruto and Storm, her magic clashing with the traitor's shadow manipulation. Despite the intense battle, Wanda's resolve was unshakable, her determination to protect her friends and stop Dr. Narius unwavering. In a final, desperate push, Naruto and Storm managed to disable the device, causing it to implode in a surge of energy. The room was bathed in a brilliant light as the device's power was neutralized. The traitor, overwhelmed and defeated, fell to the ground. Wanda approached, her eyes filled with a mix of sorrow and anger. It didn't have to end like this. The traitor looked up, their face a mask of regret. I made my choices. Now, I have to live with them. As the team regrouped, the facility began to collapse, the structural damage from the device's destruction taking its toll. They made a hasty retreat, narrowly escaping the facility's final moments. Outside, the dawn had fully broken, casting a new light on the city. The immediate danger had passed, but the betrayal they had faced left a bitter taste. Trust had been shattered, and the team was left to grapple with the consequences of their actions and the price of their victory. Naruto, Wanda, and the X-Men stood together, their faces reflecting the weariness of their battle, but also a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead would be challenging, but their resolve to protect their world remained unshaken. In the aftermath of the conflict, the bonds forged in battle would be tested. But as they faced the future, they did so with the knowledge that their fight for justice and unity was far from over. The challenges they faced would shape them, but their determination to stand together would be their greatest strength. The sun had set, casting long shadows over the Rekage of Dr. Narius's facility. The X-Men, along with Naruto and his allies, had regrouped at the Xavier Institute, their faces reflecting the exhaustion of their recent battle. Despite the victory, a somber mood pervaded the mansion as they prepared for the final confrontation. Inside the war room, the team assembled around the central table, the room illuminated by the dim light of the holographic projector. The device's destruction had been a significant blow to Dr. Narius's plans, but the battle was far from over. Professor Xavier, his expression grave, addressed the team. Dr. Narius is not defeated yet. His ultimate creation, a device capable of controlling every mutant's power, is still active. We need to locate and neutralize it before it can be fully operational. Naruto, his face determined, spoke up. Where do we start? Xavier activated the projector, revealing a detailed map of the facility. We've traced the signal to an underground bunker beneath the city. It's heavily fortified, and we'll face significant resistance. But it's the last chance we have to stop him. Storm, her eyes reflecting the weight of their mission, nodded. We'll need to approach with caution. The bunker's defenses will be formidable. Cyclops, his expression resolute, added, we'll split into two teams. One team will handle the outer defenses, while the other breaches the bunker itself. Timing will be crucial. Naruto, Wanda, Storm, Cyclops, and Wolverine formed the primary assault team, preparing for the final push. Beast and some of the X-Men would handle the outer defenses, ensuring that the path was clear for the main team to enter the bunker. As the night deepened, the teams moved out, their approach silent and strategic. The outer defenses were heavily guarded, with automated turrets and security personnel stationed at every entrance. Beast and his team worked swiftly, their skills and powers dismantling the defenses and creating a secure perimeter. Naruto, Wanda, and the main team approached the entrance to the bunker, their faces set with determination. The air was thick with tension, the sense of impending conflict palpable. As they breached the entrance, they encountered a maze of corridors and fortified doors. The bunker's layout was a complex labyrinth, designed to disorient and trap intruders. Naruto's senses were on high alert, every sound and movement scrutinized as they advanced. The team encountered fierce resistance from Dr. Narius's forces. The corridor was filled with a chaotic mix of energy blasts, combat skills, and strategic maneuvers. Naruto fought with precision, his Rasengan tearing through the opposition, while Wanda's spells created barriers and countered attacks. Storm summoned powerful winds to clear a path, her control over the elements providing crucial support. Cyclops and Wolverine worked in tandem, their combined strength and skill cutting through the defenses with brutal efficiency. As they progressed deeper into the bunker, they reached a massive chamber where Dr. Narius awaited them. The room was filled with advanced technology and dark energy, the device at its center, emitting a pulsating, ominous glow. Dr. Narius stood beside the device, his expression a mix of triumph and menace. Welcome to the final act of my grand plan. You're too late to stop the device. The world will soon be under my control. Wanda's eyes burned with determination. "We won't let you succeed. This ends now." The confrontation was intense. Dr. Narius wielded a combination of dark technology and mutant-enhanced abilities, his attacks relentless and destructive. Naruto and the X-Men fought with everything they had, their combined strength pushing back against the onslaught. Naruto's Rasengan clashed with Dr. Narius's dark energy, the impact creating shockwaves that reverberated through the chamber. Wanda unleashed powerful spells, her magic creating a vortex of energy that countered Dr. Narius's attacks. Cyclops' optic blasts tore through the defenses, while Wolverine's claws slashed through the machinery, targeting the device's critical components. Storm's winds howled through the chamber, providing cover and disrupting Dr. Narius's focus. Despite their best efforts, Dr. Narius proved to be a formidable opponent. His ability to manipulate the device's power allowed him to counter their attacks and maintain his position. The battle seemed endless, each side locked in a desperate struggle. As the fight raged on, Naruto noticed a pattern in Dr. Narius's attacks. The device's energy pulses were synchronized with his movements, creating a vulnerable moment whenever he focused on a specific attack. Naruto shared his observation with the team. "We need to exploit the device's vulnerability. When he focuses on a specific attack, that's our chance to strike." Wanda and Storm coordinated their efforts, creating a powerful diversion with their combined magic and elemental abilities. Cyclops and Wolverine launched a coordinated assault, targeting the device's critical components. Naruto seized the opportunity, his Rasengan charged with concentrated energy. With a determined shout, he launched the attack, striking the device with pinpoint accuracy. The impact sent a surge of energy through the chamber, causing the device to overload and destabilize. Dr. Narius's expression twisted in fury as his plan unraveled before him. The device's energy surged uncontrollably, the room filled with blinding light and chaotic energy. Naruto and the X-Men fought to maintain their footing, their efforts focused on neutralizing the threat. But the final, explosive surge, the device erupted in a brilliant burst of energy, its components disintegrating in a wave of destructive force. The chamber was bathed in light, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted as the device's power was neutralized. Dr. Narius, defeated and powerless, slumped to the ground, his plans shattered. The team, exhausted but victorious, stood together in the aftermath of the battle. As the dust settled, Professor Xavier and the remaining X-Men arrived at the bunker, their expressions reflecting a mix of relief and exhaustion. The immediate threat was over, but the cost of the battle had been high. Naruto, Wanda, and the X-Men regrouped, their faces reflecting the toll of their conflict. The fight had been fierce, and the victory hard-won. But as they faced the aftermath, they knew that their efforts had averted a greater disaster. In the quiet that followed the battle, Naruto and Wanda stood together, their shared experience forging a deeper bond. The trials they had faced had tested their strength and resolve, but it had also strengthened their connection. "We did it," Naruto said, his voice filled with a mix of exhaustion and relief. "We stopped him." Wanda nodded, her eyes reflecting a sense of shared triumph. "We faced incredible odds, but we didn't give up. We fought for what's right." As the team prepared to return to the mansion, they knew that their fight was far from over. The challenges they faced had forged them into a stronger, more unified force. Their victory was a testament to their courage and determination, and their bond would be their greatest strength in the battles to come. The final battle had been won, but the journey ahead would test their resolve and shape their future. Together, Naruto, Wanda, and the X-Men would face whatever challenges lay ahead, their unity and strength guiding them through the uncertain times to come. The dawn of a new day broke over the Xavier Institute, casting a warm light across the mansion's grounds. The air was filled with a sense of quiet resolve as the team gathered for one final meeting. The battle against Dr. Narius had been won, but the aftermath was a poignant reminder of the cost of their victory. Inside the mansion's main hall, Professor Xavier and the X-Men awaited Naruto, Wanda, and their allies. The mood was somber, the weight of their recent conflict heavy on their shoulders. As the team assembled, Xavier addressed them with a tone of gratitude and reflection. "Thank you all for your bravery and sacrifice," Xavier began, his voice filled with sincerity. "Your efforts have saved countless lives and thwarted a grave threat. But now, it is time to address the matter of your return to your world." Naruto and Wanda exchanged a glance, their faces reflecting a mixture of relief and melancholy. Their journey to this world had been unexpected, a convergence of destinies that had forged new bonds and tested their resolve. Naruto stepped forward, his voice steady. "We knew our time here was limited. It's hard to say goodbye, but we understand the need to return." Wanda nodded, her expression a blend of determination and sadness. "Our time here has been invaluable, and we've learned so much. But we also know that our world needs us." Cyclops, his expression reflecting a sense of camaraderie, spoke up. "We're grateful for your help. You've shown us what true teamwork and bravery look like. If you ever need us, you know where to find us." Storm, her eyes filled with a mixture of admiration and regret, added, "Your presence here has been a reminder of the power of unity. We'll miss you, but we'll always remember the strength you brought to our fight." As the farewell began, the X-Men and their allies exchanged heartfelt goodbyes. Beast, with his characteristic warmth, offered Naruto a friendly pat on the back. "Keep in touch. And remember, you have friends here who care about you." Wolverine, his usual gruff demeanor softened by the bond they had forged, shook Naruto's hand firmly. "Take care of yourself out there. Don't be a stranger." The mansion's grounds were abuzz with activity as the team prepared for the final farewell. The portal that had initially brought Naruto and Wanda to this world was now stabilized, its shimmering surface reflecting the promise of their return. Storm, her expression resolute, addressed the team one last time. "The portal will remain open long enough for your departure. When you step through, you'll return to your world and we will continue our efforts here." Naruto took a deep breath, his gaze sweeping over the faces of his newfound friends. The bonds they had formed were strong, and the experiences they shared had left an indelible mark on him. "Thank you, everyone. For everything. We couldn't have done it without your help." Wanda, her voice filled with emotion, added, "We're leaving with a sense of fulfillment and a promise to never forget the strength and courage we've seen here." As they approached the portal, the air was charged with a mixture of excitement and sadness. The portal's surface rippled, creating a gateway between their worlds. Naruto and Wanda took one last look at the mansion, their hearts heavy with the weight of their departure. Professor Xavier stepped forward, his gaze steady and compassionate. "Farewell, Naruto and Wanda. May your journey be safe and may you find peace and success in your world." But the final heartfelt goodbye, Naruto and Wanda stepped through the portal, the shimmering surface enveloping them in a wave of light. The sensation was both exhilarating and disorienting as they were transported back to their world. The portal closed behind them, leaving the X-Men and their allies standing in the quiet aftermath of their farewell. The mansion's grounds were bathed in the soft glow of the morning sun, the promise of a new day lingering on the horizon. As Naruto and Wanda emerged on the other side of the portal, they found themselves back in their familiar surroundings. The world they had left behind felt both distant and close, a reminder of the journey they had undertaken. Naruto took a deep breath, the familiar sights and sounds of his world washing over him. "We're back. It's hard to believe it's all over." Wanda nodded, her eyes reflecting a sense of both nostalgia and hope. "It feels like a lifetime ago that we first arrived. But we've grown so much through this experience." The return to their world was bittersweet. They had left behind a place that had become a part of their journey, a world where they had made lasting connections and faced extraordinary challenges. But their return marked the beginning of a new chapter, one where they would carry the lessons and strength they had gained. As they walked through their world, they were greeted by familiar faces and the everyday routines of their lives. The sense of normalcy was comforting, but it was accompanied by a profound understanding of the vastness of their experiences. Naruto and Wanda knew that their journey had changed them in ways they could never fully articulate. The bonds they had formed, the battles they had fought, and the growth they had achieved were all part of a shared adventure that would remain with them forever. In the quiet moments that followed their return, Naruto and Wanda reflected on their journey, the friendships they had forged, and the impact of their experiences. The parting of worlds had been a poignant reminder of the interconnectedness of their destinies and the strength they had found in each other. As they looked toward the future, they were filled with a sense of hope and determination. Their journey had not only tested their abilities, but it also deepened their understanding of themselves and their place in the world. The parting of worlds had been a transformative experience, and as Naruto and Wanda embraced their new reality, they did so with the knowledge that their journey had shaped them into stronger, more resilient individuals. The bonds they had forged and the lessons they had learned would guide them as they faced the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.